What's going on, guys? Matt here. So today we are looking at the CJRB Pyrite. Really interesting design, something that we haven't looked at before. We're going to kind of address some things that we haven't seen, namely with this locking mechanism. I've never reviewed or owned a button lock. This is my first one. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about the specs. We'll talk about what I like, what I dislike, and something unique. But first, let's do some size comparisons before we get into that real quick. So let's compare it to one of my favorites all-time, Cold Steel Recon 1. You know, this is a smaller knife. This is a good bit smaller. This is more your EDC size, and that'll come out when we get into these specs. We got a 4-inch blade on that Recon 1. Let's compare it to Classic, one you guys are really familiar with, Buck 110. This thing is, I haven't carried this one in a while, but you can see that brass is just starting to patina. But, you know, I carried it quite a bit, and I still will carry it occasionally. It's a fun one, especially with that thumb stud. If I keep it in my coin pocket, you know, works just fine. Yeah, it's heavy. Who cares? Okay, let's do a couple more. So, Case Kinzua. Marilla, sorry. I had the Kinzua. I prefer the Marilla. Yeah, and I'll do a review on this one. There's a lot of similarities with the Kinzua, but Marilla, I think overall is just a better blade, I think. All right, and let's do one more in comparison to the Kershaw Blur. Now, ooh, we're getting some rust on that. Huh, that's interesting. This is BDZ1, so, and that's over the coating. So yeah, nice little note right there. These are relatively similar in size, a little bit more blade length, a little bit more handle length on that Kershaw Blur. And yes, you can see it is de-assisted. Not intentionally, but I might leave it like that. Kershaw's warranty is great, so if I need to get that done, I can get it done. Okay, so the CJRB Pyrite. So we're looking at a 3.11 inch blade, 4.2 inch handle. It is AR RPM 9 steel. Can we see that? Yeah, there we go. AR RPM 9 steel, which is a powder metallurgy. They say that it has the edge retention of D2 and the stain resistance of 14C28N. In my experience, it seems to kind of do that. So it is that blade is 0.11 inches thick, relatively thin stock on that. It has a stonewash finish, as you can see, not only on the blade, but also on the stainless steel handles. Ceramic ball bearing in this pivot. And boy, can you tell, because it's really smooth. And for this one specifically, this weighs 3.7 ounces. Now, let's talk real quick about kind of the options you have with the CJRB Pyrite. So you have many options when it comes to this blade. It comes in a G10 version. It comes in a stainless version. It also comes in various titanium versions. There were some exclusives for some knife companies. The CJRB Pyrite has absolutely blasted off and the knife community. The design is just very well loved. It was kind of a sleeper hit in my opinion. All of a sudden I started seeing them all over the place, and companies started, blade companies started realizing how many people liked them. They started getting exclusives. They started just really selling very well for CJRB, which is owned by Artisan Cutlery. So yeah, it's a very well-loved design, and I got a good deal on this, and I really liked the stainless handle, so I went ahead and went with this one. So 3.7 ounces on the stainless handle. You're looking at about 2.6 on the G10 handle, so really lightweight knife. So let's talk about what I like about the CJRB Pyrite. So the locking mechanism is really fun. Now, this is a button locking mechanism, and we'll kind of show you how this works. So as you pivot that, what happens is there's a little divot in the blade, and there is a, you can see there's a bar lock, right? But it's thicker on one end, so that little divot locks in to the divot right there on that blade. So it locks in there. The lock is really tight. There's no wiggle up and down, back and forth. I'm not sure about the strength of the lock. If you're comparing it to something like this, you know, your standard liner lock, I'd say it's probably about as strong. If you're comparing it to something like a frame lock, guys, let me know if you've done tests with these push button locks, but I can't imagine it would be as strong as something like this, and it's definitely not going to have the strength or the rigidity of, you know, kind of a really stout back lock like on this Cold Steel. So you'll have to let me know long-term durability of a lock like this. I can imagine for just about any use you would use this for, which would be, you know, standard utility and maybe some carving, it's quite a comfortable knife. So anything like that, it's probably going to do fine. But I really, really like it. I like how smooth it is. I like how it deploys. You can just deploy it kind of like you would deploy an Axis lock. And it's just very smooth, very, very fun. So really cool locking mechanism, different than what we see from like Artisan and Kaiser and stuff like that. So I think the fit and finish is also excellent on this. There's no sharp edges. There's no rough corners. There's just nothing that I would say, oh, you know, they cut corners. They went too quickly making this knife. Fit and finishes just is good. And along with that, the look of this blade is just nice, especially the stainless steel version. It just looks like an expensive blade, in my opinion. It looks like a really elegant blade. I showed it to a friend of mine who's a knife enthusiast, and he was very, very impressed. And he's owned a lot of blades in his time. So, yeah, I just think the looks are quite nice. Very simple, nice drop point blade, but very, very good. The handle is also very comfortable. Even for someone with really big hands, I can just get my pinky on that. And yeah, I can get a full grip on this thing. It's, you know, doesn't feel like there's any hot spots. My hand fits very, very comfortably. It's not like some of the other smaller blades where my pinky's kind of, you know, left off right there. No, my pinky can fully get on there. And so even if you have my hand, you know, I usually wear an XL glove, you know, it's very comfortable. So let's see what else. The steel on this, AR RPM 9 is just an excellent steel, especially for the price range. You know, in this price range, usually we'll see something like AUS 10, D2, stuff like that. And those are great steels. Love those steels. But this is kind of, you know, I think it's in a league of its own. I think it's a little bit above your AUS 10, your VG10, your D2, because it has that extra stain resistance and that extra edge retention. So I love that they made this steel, this powder metallurgy steel, and for what you're getting to get a powder metallurgy steel, I think that's really, really cool. Another thing that I think is just a great touch that they have in this knife is, see, these stainless steel handles, they are milled out. That's what makes this knife so light. I mean, if these were just solid stainless steel handles, you'd be looking at 4.5 ounces, I would guess. And that's a lot of weight for a blade this big. This is just, I think it's so cool that they took the extra time to mill those out, lighten this blade up, so you can have a fully stainless steel knife that only weighs it weighs under 4 ounces. I mean, that's just outstanding. Well done, and nice touch on milling out these fully stainless steel handles. I think that's excellent. It just shows a lot of thought went into making this blade, and I understand why it's popular. Another thing I really like is the clip. It's just a simple clip, but it does the job just fine. Nice and deep carry. You know, not getting in the way with those screws. Case, please do something about those, for the love of God. I love this blade, but those screws, come on, man. Just do something different. So yeah, the clip's good. It's good to go. No worries on that clip. And I mentioned it before, but the weight, I think, is just excellent for a knife of this size, especially if you get the G10 version. You know, I always say, you know, blade length to weight ratio. This is a 3.1 inch blade, and that G10 version weighs 2.6 ounces. So yeah, that's awesome. Very good. All right, so nothing I don't mind. So let's move on to what I don't like. So this choil, I don't really understand. I get what it is, right? Sharpening choil, right? And I think they kind of went halfway into making it big enough to be a finger choil. But if you can see, if you got bigger hands like me, that's not a finger choil, my friend. This knife is razor sharp. Another good thing about it, right? This thing is just outstandingly sharp from the factory. But there's no way I would comfortably use that as a finger choil. You know, that's gonna, if I put any pressure on that, that's gonna cut me, slice me really, really good, actually. But it's also, you're losing a lot of blade length for that to be just a sharpening choil, right? Let me look at something else. Right, that's your sharpening choil. See how much smaller that is? You know, it's not trying to be a finger choil right there. So I just think that either make it a little bit bigger, which I think it probably doesn't need it. You know, it's a 3.1 inch blade. So drop this edge down to here, you know, give us give us a 1/10 of an inch more cutting edge. I don't quite understand that, but it's something I can forgive because otherwise I think the blade is really, really cool. And so that moves us on to what's unique. The button lock is a really, really unique choice for this. So, you know, a lot of us knife guys, we know there's a lot of knife companies out of China. Artisan, which is CJRB's Artisan as well. We have Kaiser, and I'm forgetting some other. Petrified Fish, I believe. Stativian. There's a few others. There's one big one I can't remember. I must be missing right now. But anyway, almost every single one of their blades is a liner lock. And they're good blades. A lot of them are very well designed. They seem to have a lot of thought put into them. But I feel like they're a lot of the same mechanisms, just dressed in different garb kind of thing. So what I love about the Pyrite is it's not that. And I know Civivi was the other one I was thinking of. Civivi has some button locks, but I just think that it's very, very cool that instead of just making this a liner lock, they're like, let's do something different. Let's make it a button lock, something that's more fidgety, you know, more enjoyable, can even deploy even smoother than some of those liner locks. And for the price you're getting for materials and this kind of really unique button lock, I just think that's super unique. You know, there's not a lot of companies doing stuff like this. So excellent job, CJRB. Every knife I've gotten my hands on from you guys, I've just thought was excellent. So I think, you know, keep doing what you're doing. So it's an absolute recommend, guys. The CJRB Pyrite, I think, is really is a quite excellent design. I'm going to go ahead and get my hands probably on the G10 version, maybe the titanium version as well, just because I think it's a really cool design. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace.